I can only read Italian.
Got it.
The kids just go down and play.
So you got to
And
change
in
it.
those days, the basement, of course, the house is torn up and they destroyed.
Okay, we're live, just so you know.
Yeah.
Supposed to have it rebuilt, but the basement, that house was an infirmary in the Civil War. And we used to have seances.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. People kept coming in the house and desecrating
Oh.
looking for artifacts and stuff. So they had a private school.
Yeah. Stabilize it.
They had the, she's a cheerleader.
Yeah.
You know, I'm glad they
Yeah.
use it.
I think they're,
I had the,
see, back then, during that, they had,
the only thing that you cannot miss is always the first weekend of fall break. So I did not know I would make it last year on the fly, but I was like, I just don't want to miss the other stickers. So,
Huh,
what's really neat about that
as an
house.
office one?
No,
Yeah.
and, every room in the house was.
Yeah, they're different.
You had to step up or step down to get to go in one room or the other.
Interesting.
They always had,
It was very neat.
Reason behind
it
that.
was always.
I don't know, I just-
Yeah. You gotta check your boxes. Yeah, you gotta check your boxes, but, you know,
You know,
they,
there's a lot of things.
lots of rockers. Because we have like the YMCA, the YMCA CEO, and of course we had two CEOs last year, so those CEO last year.
Uh-huh. So I guess it's a co-founding woman, basically.
Yeah.
Well, my house is a 1920s
I never saw
house.
that. I saw
And
that too. Yeah.
there's a coal chute inside.
Oh,
the
yeah.
house.
Oh, yeah, I was
And,
surprised.
you know,
Just
concrete
not
wall
his
base for
person,
25 years
where he
now.
is. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, what used to get done there.
You know, that's why I just put the time.
Brothers lived over on Battlefield. Sister lives on Glendale. Got a brother that lives on General Bates. You know, it's
It's a lot of
still
things.
stuff in there. Yeah. It's nice.
Plenty of pizza, I think, I'm hungry.
Oh, I've actually just already ate. Thank you, though.
What you got?
Some cheese and pepperoni.
I moved in '81.
The library staff should be happy again.
Yeah.
How you doing? Come on in. Good, thank you, thank you.
Sorry, interrupt you there.
No, no,
Hey, what's happening?
Good to see you. Miss it.
No, I'm recording.
What's new?
Just got back from California.
Nice.
Like a week in California.
Are you from there? Okay. Where are you from? Whereabouts?
San Francisco Bay Area. But I spent a week in Mendocino,
Nice.
up in the mountain.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's cool.
Friends from like 30 years ago.
Yeah, that's
20 old
cool.
friends. Like,
Yeah,
it's
that's
really,
cool.
really good time. Really neat it. But got
Make
back
you
at,
miss
like,
it at all?
What's that?
Did it make you miss it at all, or you're like,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
you still love it there?
Yeah, got back at like 3 this morning, 3:30 this morning. Had a call at 2. Got off that, came here.
Yeah.
Oh man, so you're like, you're totally jet lagged.
I am fried.
Yeah.
I'm pissed.
Yeah. Okay.
What's the least intrusive way?
Good.
To let that other piece
Yeah, so I was gonna, I haven't really been following this that closely. I guess not much has really happened in the last, you know. I mean, they did a traffic study, which I have not read. I mean, they're so dense, and they'll tell you whatever they want to hear anyway. So,
Lisa said that the footprint's gotten a lot bigger too. Went from 176 to 3 something, like a incredibly big size change.
I got this.
I just like, it's just so stupid. Cutting down all those trees.
No more detail in it, Schuster.
I mean, I've never really, I haven't ever been driving.
Yeah.
Dryly when it's raining really hard there, but I'm sure there's gotta be hydroplane. This is a lot to make that work.
Oh yeah, so just noticing that on this last storm. It's like there's so much. It's just gonna get worse and worse.
Of course, his car broke, so it was only all the, but he has a detail that's gonna improve your house. He's the second guy, so. So, wait, just. So I left, I didn't leave the windows open on it, I forgot to close it before we set the line. So of course, we're gonna just. Yeah, I got it. What about this? Got it.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, got
I was gonna go grocery shopping, I had dinner plans, and I was like, oh yeah, meetings.
it. Thank you.
Well, yeah, I kind of forgot about it till yesterday, and I was like, wasn't there supposed to be a meeting this week? And I was like, for some reason in my head, I was like, 28th, and so I was like, oh, fuck, and then it was tonight, I was like, okay, I can do that.
I forgot about it until my reminders on my phone came up,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh.
Yeah.
I was like, I
yeah.
got somewhere to be.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Will you remind me your name?
Marlena.
Marlena and Ian.
Yes. Yeah, nice to see you again. No, it was important to show up and stuff, so.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you as well.
Rabble rouser from over in Whites Creek, so.
We're off of like actual Jordan Bridge right there, so that mean like this one reason like it would like affect us on Cato Road because that's our only outlet. So
Yeah, you're on Cato Road, or you're?
yeah, we're on Cato Road right in the back subdivision of Jordan Bridge.
Oh,
So, yeah.
okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, the flooding seems to be like, it's weird, if you look at a map, normally like there's flooding, it'll be consistent, but it gets briny and it backs up. And so I don't know where it goes. It doesn't really go to the original creek as much. I guess it just goes into Briley. I don't know.
I was thinking 24.
Look at that low area right under National City
yeah, like right
Highway.
after you pass the bridge, it's like right on the right hand side. Is that
Yeah.
subdivision up there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so that's why, like, it's our the only way to go in and out is over that bridge. And,
Yes.
So that's why I'm like,
Gotcha,
it's
yeah.
like,
Oh, I didn't realize that. For some reason, I just assumed there would be like a.
yeah, there's no
entrance on
outlet
East Creek
there.
or something
So,
like that.
like, you could go, if you go to the next subdivision after you pass the bridge, you could be able to have an outlet to go to Eaton Creek and stuff.
Oh,
But
okay.
other than that, like, if you're passing the bridge, like, there's no other outlet. And it's a dead end.
Hey, what's up? What's up, LP? LP?
Cause I come from out that way. I jump on like
Just trying to cheer everybody up.
Them your bikes.
Oh, thank you. Oh, that's so weird.
I know, but Laverne's right down the street from me. I live in Antioch, but I live 2 blocks from the county line.
We're gonna stay night in Knoxville, which is where Jen and I went to college, so we're gonna
I'm not
take the kids to some of our old hangouts and stuff.
well, it's not.
And then we're going up to East Tennessee and staying in Rogersville, which is kind of the town where I grew up, basically.
How you doing? Doing
Trying
okay?
to
How are you?
drive
I'm
around
good.
a little bit, see what's going on.
Hello.
Since I never seen
Yeah, we're kind of making like a little bit of
I was in 33.
How's it going? Good to see you guys.
But yeah, I mean,
All right. Yeah, I was in 33, but I'm in 48 now.
Hey, now.
Yeah, I was 33.
you know, my mom got sick, my brother and his kids didn't see her because they were so worried. They were gonna
Yeah,
see
that's
death and they were gonna be freaked
that's
out. And
who
I'm
it
like,
was.
well, it
Yeah,
is
she took
scary.
over for Sam.
But if you just ignore it and pretend like it doesn't happen, then like it's gonna be a real rude awakening.
Yeah, you're too sheltered. Right.
And
Well, that
so,
sounds like, hopefully it'll be cooler though, too, being out in the mountains.
We got pizza, everyone wants it, we're gonna start in here in just a second, wait for a few more.
Yeah.
So,
maybe I'll change my mind about this.
I appreciate it.
So I won't be able
Ian's got us on, Ian's got us in the ether, so I think we'll
Nice.
reach this, yeah.
Very good. And I don't think there'll be anything.
Groundbreaking. I've been to all of these, so.
Right
I
away,
mean-
that's gonna be change of not where it was, so I think it'll be, hopefully just honed in a little better for everyone to.
Yeah, you missed a good one last time. There was a lot of really good concerns that came up and,
I did watch his.
Oh, nice. Okay.
I did get the stream, watch the stream.
Yeah, very good.
Called me and said like, dude,
How's
you
it going,
gotta
man?
shut
Good to see you, man. You too. You're good.
pepperoni hands here.
Where's Ruby?
She's on.
Okay.
Right, yeah. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you? You too.
How's it going out there?
It's going all right. Storm that came through. Lots of knocking. Lots of money being thrown around. Not
I
in
saw
this
the lights
direction.
came on, I was like, feels like it's 8 o'clock in the
I
morning.
think as we head into early voting, people will start to give a good look to all the candidates and so forth, you know.
It's funny how.
And so I was basically, I've been getting up at like 5 in the morning, going in there, painting till people get there around 9, and then coming home and sleeping. Because it's just like, I'm not used to that. I'm not used to that timing at all. I'm not a morning person. Although I can't seem to sleep in. And so I woke up from a little mini nap around like noon or something like that, 11 or noon, and I was like, did I sleep through the night? Like, what's going on?
What time of day is it?
I just like kept to look at my phone and be like, oh my god, it's like 11.
It is what it is.
Do they have a council date on this?
Not yet.
So I hope you'll bring up
Why
your
are they
solution
not
from last time that
Yeah.
I really liked.
Making
Well, I mean, the other gentleman that was
policy
here,
change or community
sure,
care.
because it was the same thing, he's like, that might be a
I mean,
good
I guess it
option,
doesn't
you know?
matter at this point.
I
Yeah.
was like, yes, I don't
They're going
know.
all, they're going to
Oh,
council, so
the,
it's-
whenever I mentioned the easement,
Yeah. Shoot at the
because they hear
rocks.
easement on the
I don't
north
know.
side.
That's a really good
I
point.
never
Never
really
really
answered
answered.
about that before, they just said they
Yeah.
weren't doing it, but
Might make
that
a
was
lot of
mostly
neighbors
just
happy.
so
Yeah, I was about to say,
that was
I think
more
you make the people happy,
planning
and I don't
part.
think they'd be opposed for business coming in, you know? I mean, it would be a compromise for everybody.
Right, nobody's gonna get everything.
Yeah, no, exactly, that's what I'm saying, and, you know, ultimately, that area's gonna be developed anyways,
Right.
like what you want there.
Yeah, exactly.
And like, you know, overall, I mean, I'd rather have, like I said, a warehouse and stuff than a factory that emits chemicals and stuff in there.
Some pollution.
Yeah. So I mean, like, you know, overall, it'd be a good option.
And
Just
then
trying
where's
to
everywhere?
make
It's all
everybody happy, like all parties happy.
Right.
I heard he was born.
Yeah.
on there.
Which is what this is all
When he had a
about.
little-
That's why we have so many of these meetings.
Nice little
People like
haircut.
you bring something to the table and hopefully, you know, it's
Passes,
a
that's
good
what-
look.
Yeah, I mean, like,
And I know they didn't do it.
yeah, that's why it's always important, just, you know, to get other people, like, inside people that's in the area, but then also too, obviously, like, you know, neighborhoods are people,
Yeah.
you know.
Trying to
Yeah, of
justify
course.
it just makes sense there.
This
Oh, I
business
know,
person,
and
so
when he sent
you
out
have to
the
compromise where everybody,
Right.
you know, can handle it, I think you're fine.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree. You know, and District One is gonna receive a lot of
or something like that.
Oh, it is, you know, it's
I mean,
inevitable, I mean, to be honest with you, that's one reason that we bought in the area is because we see the potential
Yeah.
Been a day.
home prices improving.
Yes.
And that equity
Yeah.
potentially being there.
Oh, absolutely.
Because of that, we were like, hey, we're gonna buy in this area
Same.
low, then,
Yeah, okay,
you know,
Proctor.
We thought the same exact thing.
Yeah, I know, I was
But we're
emailing
good
you.
at
Yeah, I was like-
I like it.
She even puts me in
Snack,
check.
email us.
snack bills, like when it's already this high.
Yeah, for a little bit,
Right,
yeah, we're
our
pretty
area.
vocal, obviously.
For like
Got a loud house.
reasonable,
Yeah.
like very
Yeah.
reasonable,
Yeah.
but the sprawl is
Good.
already, so already.
I've still got people to meet,
My,
so.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say they do, so that's why I understand.
Oh, yeah, oh,
Luckily, you're.
so you already convinced.
Yeah.
But,
my
you know,
last
it's just
list.
important that
I
we
guess
have somebody representing us finally.
So you're done with mayor? You figured it out?
Oh, yeah, I had to
Just
figure out
represent-
why.
Okay.
That was a no-brainer for me.
Oh, for mayor?
Presents itself that, you know,
But, yeah,
you can work
and
with,
vice mayor
that
too.
the neighbors are okay with, and
Now
that
it's
you
just,
foresee
and I,
us fitting with.
my district.
I have to ask you who you're voting for.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
Yeah, we're all in the middle of
One
like
of
the
the
District One
keeps
stuff
me up
out
at
here.
night.
Yeah.
Because we're now in District One, which is great.
So y'all can disagree?
She was always in
I've
one.
always
Yeah,
been.
no, I mean, no, I
We were in
agree.
three,
And
and
I
what they
mean,
did
that's
is
the
they
thing
divided
too, like,
like
there's,
churches right down
yeah,
there.
honest, fair.
Which of
Yeah,
course.
represent the people we
Puts
represent.
And now,
everybody at
and now we're
disadvantage.
Like the
reunited.
majority, I mean, they're gonna have like.
And it
Now
feels so
Jolton, now
good.
Jolton's,
And then, George, you got some,
now Jolton's split in their
they're
back.
split there, but they put
And the
10%.
well-being of.
Yeah.
But we still have about.
A vision for the whole thing, instead of just doing one thing here, one thing here, one thing, and nothing matches, nothing fits into the brand,
Exactly.
stuff like that.
It's like.
Yeah,
I know, I mean, it's nice, you don't have to worry about that either, which is nice. You're like, this is how life.
I mean, like I said, I'd rather something like this come in that.
That's the county of Madison. Yeah, the
Yeah.
council changed around.
That's what I thought it was at first.
I know, yeah, I know, that's the first thing I thought too, I was like.
The answer is the,
Yeah, I'm
but,
like, cause I wouldn't want that
What's
here,
that?
cause,
Obviously,
I mean,
what's
obviously we have
Which
structures
puts
and waste
this
management,
bad.
and sides here.
There's gonna be a lot of pressure
On top of it,
develop
it's
out
like
there.
the air.
the air coming off, like methane and then whatever.
Yeah.
little
We
just do it like
light
words
swirling
We were
over
having,
and into it.
well,
Yeah, I know, yeah, and I was supposed to say that.
with me
Yeah.
you know, a bunch of others.
But you really actually think out like the White Creek watershed, as well on the other side, you know, you've got
That wasn't
all those
really-
right there too. So it's like, this isn't like out
The
of
tree
the
canopy.
Yeah, no, I mean, that little area right there is just prone to
I
have.
know.
Yeah.
Well, no,
You know,
that's,
that out, do you mind
like
asking?
something, but I just said I didn't want it to be.
Was already in the process of
And then like, you know.
of forest
I think,
slopes
you know, it's good for the
protection
church
plan.
because they've been there
And
for a
so
while.
I met with them
They're-
and Kathleen and
Yeah.
met with them
Be
and
honest
said,
with
you
you,
know,
That's
we want
good.
this to be.
Yeah,
So it's
exactly.
like-
They have a
Yeah.
stake
Yeah.
If they're rolling it
rather
into
than
that
have somebody
plan,
from out of town come in and
keeps
do
it
whatever they
moving.
want.
Right, it's gonna
You
keep
know, have
popping up and
somebody that
saying,
has a stake in the community.
Yeah, so they don't wanna like reinvest their money.
yeah, it's good to have, it's good to
That
have.
sounds better to me than the
Yeah.
alternative.
And my
for sure. That's why this is
thought
something
is,
that I
you know,
believe
what
everybody should.
Kathleen Williams explained to me, she sort of.
No, I mean, I agree too, that's what I'm saying. I'm
This
saying
is-
this, and I understand your
And I'm so
having a warehouse here and doing stuff logistically that works for them. And
much
I
of
want
it
the
is
church
privately
to
owned.
be able to still function and do whatever, you know, that they do,
You
you
can
know.
cut down every tree.
And, so I mean, like, it's just the concern on my end, you know, obviously, and I know yours too, since we live in the same community.
You know, and even
That
if
Cato
you
Road
know,
traffic,
Cato Road traffic, and that's their only outlet, so that way, so we can even get to that other development, on the left side, we can go down.
That's why
We're
I
blocked
was very
in.
excited
It's
for
kind of a
White
scary
Creek
thought if you think something
watershed.
happens.
Yeah.
But, you know, what I
Yeah.
For funding to do that type of thing.
make that
Friends of White Creek joined us.
more guardrails and stuff. There are areas where you can, if you, somebody swerves you off into the ditch, you're
Miscalculating, you could
flipping.
easily go into the ditch.
You were just doing this in and out of the
My
lane.
wife's from Lawrence.
Come on, stay in your lane.
Exactly. I've had a couple of instances where I'm like,
Yeah, there was
oh
a
my
cool
gosh,
method.
it's like if I don't
Yeah,
like,
highway
you know,
goes
slow down and go to the side of it, this person's gonna get me. And I'm just
Yeah,
like,
so that was
and
kind
it's
of,
just,
that was the strategy.
it's not wide
You
enough.
could
I
have
mean,
that all
obviously,
this
the way
way.
the road's set up, you know,
Because what's
you're gonna
happening is
have to take
you've got
away from
parcels
like some
that
part of the
are
land,
already
you
developed,
know, yeah.
And then they're now poisoning
Like
the
eminent
water.
domain, like that's
In
like
addition
it's part of the land in this part.
Which happens all the time, and it's
just
like, those are lots that are so big, you won't even.
We got most of
And a
it.
lot of them,
We
we
did
got
get all of
these
it,
big
but the
gutters
watershed, we
and
got-
stuff
we
like
got
that, these big trenches, like, I'm sure some of our neighbors would be like, yeah, fill it in, use my road, please, you know.
Yeah, there's
Right,
something that kind of
yeah, I
influences
mean,
safety of it, so I agree with you. That was the only thing, like, we were getting
I
ready
mean,
to
we
buy
did
our
that too,
house, and we
because,
were like,
I mean,
like this
I
road,
argued against
potential,
some
like,
houses
you know,
beside
if it gets backed up.
that they were building on top of the
Yeah.
hill, and that was uphill from like,
Get that
from
school
a.
traffic.
neighborhood.
I'm so sorry I had a delay coming in, but I appreciate for those who have shown up. My name is Jerry Lockhart, and I do represent the Church of the Living God, Holy Ground of Truth. Feel free for those who are present to partake of the graciousness. Go ahead and get a bite to eat, something to drink. And for those who are viewing via Facebook or the other platform medium, I cordially say good evening. So I appreciate you spending the time to take out to hear the concerns and exchange your concerns with what's happening. All right. I have here, I don't know who can help click, but this is the Church of Living God. This is a basis of what has happened since the 1980s. I'm going to try to highlight what the impacts are, what the traffic flow will look like, because that was highly recommended to me by certain members of the community to say that's a hot concern. So I want to make sure up front to give that some address. And then, of course, what kind of activities will be taking place at the headquarters here. All right? Church of Living God, established 1903. We have been active with a charter and a mandate to have a headquarters in Nashville, Tennessee. We purchased the property, which is currently off of Ashland City Highway, vis-a-vis Cato Road toward the rear, since the 1980s, and we've had the plan to do this development. It is a church, it is a religious organization, and we are going to operate from that particular aspect. Okay? Slide. Here is what the impact will look like. We expect to have a headquarters activity, which is done from our national church 7 days. It's 1 full week of delegates who will come in. You're looking at 120, 150 delegates that will show up from around the country. We have churches that go up and down the seaboard, throughout the South, the Midwest, some that are out California, Arizona, but mostly in the Midwest. the south and up and down the seaboard. So a lot of our delegates will converge on Nashville. We've been doing this at hotels, usually on the West End or downtown. We've done this through the years, pending development of our headquarters facility. And I'll get a little bit more into that. But this is what we look like. 150 delegates typically show up, and I use that number as an approximate because it's a lot less depending on the year. And if COVID hits or something like that, obviously we had no activity for the last 2 years. But usually we'll have representatives from the local bands. We call our churches bands. The local band members, we have about 35 that are active that meet each Sunday for services. And usually we'll come up to our current headquarters and we'll conduct our services there. And then full-time staff, you're talking about those who will operate and run the facility throughout the year. We have about 3 individuals. Now, those individuals, we try to keep one on property for presence so that we can handle business, answer phone, and deal with other things nationally. But a lot of times we'll have intermittent or itinerant individuals, a pastor or reverend, that will come in and sit at the property and work a shift, maybe a month or 2. So you may see that, but typically about 3 full-time staff that will oversee that headquarters facility. This is just our scope. I can give you a synopsis. I won't read that to you and then consult your intelligence. But what it says is we have one individual who will take in all concerns from the city, community members, we'll work with other partners, and then that final decision will be left with the church leader, Dr. Harry Lewis. He resides in Tuskegee, Alabama, and he is a native of Nashville, Tennessee, and a proud graduate of TSU, and so he's very intimate and familiar, and having been born and raised here in Nashville, he holds very close and dear these aspects of what we're doing, and as the lead of the church, he runs it. So here are the activities that the headquarters will do, and I want you to pay close attention as I read these out, and it'll be real brief, but this is what delineates what happens at the headquarters for the national meeting, 1 week a year, and what happens throughout the year operations. So let me explain that. The General Assembly, again, is a 1 week activity annually. The New and Living Way Publishing, which is what generates a lot of revenue for our church, we will house and maintain our books and literature at the headquarters. So that's the publishing arm, and we distribute that first to our local bands around the country, and then of course we support other religious organizations as they solicit or subscribe. And then the SMMA, which is the St. Mary Magdalena Auxiliary, it is a simple, help, coat drive, thrift store. We try to donate items. We support earthquake in Haiti, floods, hurricanes down in Florida for a large number of our memberships. We will have those items stockpiled and we distribute. That's our mission, one of our missions. Necrology is, obviously, when you have folks who are in your congregation, and of course, once they hit their demise, the necrology comes around, maintains that, and of course, funeral rites and things like that are taking place. We maintain those records because once our ministers conduct services or final rites, you have to have a reference to go to. So we have necrology, which is a department that operates, again, annually at the headquarters. Ministers Training Institute, we certify our ministers. That's done annually. So you won't see them other than the 1 week during the year to come up to certify. It's more of a postgraduate type of training institute. And then we have the membership cafeteria used as needed, and then lodging. We have a parsonage for our current headquarters, and that's what we use when folks come in or itinerant. They have a place to stay. It's 3 to 4 individuals usually that will come in, and they will maintain residence there, but most typically get a hotel. So again, that's as needed. So out of all of these items, the current operations, you will see the majority of those, all but 2, that are conducted only that 1 week out of the year. Okay, it culminates in that 1 week. Here's what the future headquarters facilities should look like. You'll hear a little bit about the land swap, which will make this all possible for us. The sanctuary building, This is where it was confusing. Some people said, first you said 150, then you said 200. Let me clarify that. We want to build a capacity, okay? I'm not saying that's how many you will have, it's just the capacity that we're hopeful for. Will we ever reach that? I'm not sure. We would hope to with parishioners, those who come in from the community. We welcome that. Cottage efficiency, you'll see this later on in a long-term plan. And then this land swap won't be all developed all at once because we don't have the need for it. But on the front end, toward the back of what you're going to see in that land swap, we want to provide these facilities and build them up. And then as future growth allows, we can expand. And this is something we want to do at a pace in harmony with the way the community is developed. Infrastructure, we'll talk a little bit more about that offline. I'll work with the persons we'll align with through Eskimo. And then, of course, this is the issue where the communities we're open for hearing discussion on, and that's roadway egress for Ashland City and Cato Road. How does that fit in? Well, you have seen our operation and how that fits in with you guys. That's where we're hoping to get some input. This is a graphic map. I don't know if those who are looking via Facebook can see this, but what I want to do is, and Chip may have a better map, but to help orient, because people were somewhat confused about exactly where we were, but we're in that quadrant that intersects Ashland City and Briley Parkway. And out of that, the church property currently sits here. Eskimo Properties has this holding here, and we want to swap, giving us some land access here, and that takes us through the Cato Road, and that gives them this front portion here, and they can do what they need to do away from the community up there. We heard this initially 2.5 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, and we've been hashing it out, and eventually Ryan was able to come in and give a very convincing aspect as to how it can work in the harmony with the community, because the church is looking to have its operation long before this opportunity came. So it's just now allowing us that opportunity to develop and grow. We have come to warm up to the slide. Here are the two thrusts. Within the next 2 to 3 years, we're hopeful to have the main sanctuary and a multi-purpose building erected. That's not tomorrow, but in the near future, that's what we're hoping to have, okay, on that property, which is in tune with what we've been planning since mid to early to mid 80s. Long term, we're looking at within the next 5 years, we want to expand that to education, a education/daycare center, which is a model that we have throughout the country at our local bands, and then a senior center. And that's because the majority of those who make decisions for our organization are seniors, and they're warm to that, and they try to push for that type of ministry to help those and give a place, day drop-in, as you will, just for seniors to engage. We've often worked with the food centers, Meals on Wheels, I'm sure you all are familiar with, and they have been highly successful in Chicago, Jacksonville, North Carolina, and we'd like to bring that to this community with our facilities. And then, of course, potential services that are offered for members and community visitors, ancillary to our religious organization activities, would be early childhood, GED classes, now HiSET, senior day program, thrift donation exchange, weddings and funerals upon request. Now, we are a church, so a lot of times that is our #1 request. I'm not saying it's frequent or often, I'm just telling it as a religious organization. That is what usually comes with membership. And then, of course, we have those outside the community that may often come and say, hey, you got this nice facility, can we, conduct this activity? And most often, we try to be benefactors in the community. If they're from the community, we try to support them. If y'all want to know the face of individuals who are dealing with this, these are the names, and I'm free and open to share these with you and where they're from. But this board has been selected Mr. James Lewis is out of Chicago. He's a facilities engineer. Ms. Felicia Satchel, these are members, by the way. She's a realtor out of Citrus County, Florida. Arlen Lewis is our lead attorney. He's out of Birmingham, Alabama. Mr. Green, he's not a member, but he is retained by us. He's present here in the audience. So he handles mostly our legal aspects within the state of Tennessee. Kima Lawler is realtor out of Palm Beach, Florida. And then myself, I work directly under our overseer's assistant, Dr. Lewis, Bishop Lewis out of Nashville, Tennessee. Phases, unimportant. As you can tell, we're moving at the speed of Metro. So it's I'm not a political person, all right? I leave that up to other people. I'm just a person representing the interest of the church and a vested member of the community. Okay? So that's what we have. Civic engagement is where we're at, and hopefully, or actually more or less, we're trying to get to where I can make a report back from community input. And I'd love to hear what you all have to say, because we would like to work in harmony with the community. That is our particular interest. Barring any questions, that's all I have for representing the church. I'll now turn it over to Brian.
Does anyone have any questions for
Any questions?
Aaron?
I'm not leaving, I'll be here, so if you have other questions, I can still take those on, especially if those who are on Facebook, I'm open to that. You can shoot me an email.
Just a real quick question. So this is a swap, right? Like
Yes.
you guys are getting a parcel and you're trading the parcel that you have now
Yes.
in exchange.
Yes.
So the parcel that you're getting, what's it currently zoned for and what can you do with it?
Okay, so it is zoned, our aspect, we're a religious organization.
Right.
And when we purchased the property and applied through the Board of Equalization to designate it, the church can go in there. That's what we're told, and that's what we're doing. So, to answer your question.
Is zone RS?
RS-15.
RS-15, okay.
Yes, so as we.
But churches have exemption everywhere, so there's no.
I'm sorry, I didn't get your name, sir.
I'm Matthew, yeah.
Thank you,
Nice to
Matthew.
meet you, yeah.
So churches don't have zoning, zoning exemptions.
Well,
So,
to answer your question, but
Yeah.
that is the answer, it is RS.
so RS-15 doesn't apply then? It's kind of whatever you guys want.
For
the
what I'm
church.
thinking, right.
Yeah.
Well, within the bounds of the church, I mean, the church has limitations of what.
And you still have other zones, you still have setbacks, you have, FA floor area ratio requirements, you have impervious surface area ratio requirements, that all apply to base zoning.
Sure.
I'm sorry, Matt, did that answer your question? I didn't mean to.
Sort of, yeah. I think the thing that we're most concerned about is like long-term lodging. I know that was something that you listed in your presentation, and it seems like the use of this facility is gonna be pretty limited for most of a given year. Like, I know you've got your annual council that meets there.
Yeah.
That sounds like probably one busy week.
Yeah.
But when I saw long-term lodging on there, that's something that I personally am pretty concerned about.
Sure.
Because Cato Road's a 2-lane road, and if we have additional
And
lodging.
I'm
that is-
glad you did ask that, because it helped me to bring this for clarification. So, every church is authorized one parcel.
Yeah,
And that's the aspect that we will look at. It's for the itinerant and visits to come up, not for general, I don't even know if we would exceed the number of 6 individuals. So living on the property is it's an enticement for us. We want a person who can oversee our property.
Sure.
Because when people say, oh, Sunday's over, yeah, they go to town. And that's been our experience. So we hope to have a person who can reside on the property, but that's not always the case.
So in the slide that said cabin style lodging, you mean a cabin, not several cabins, okay?
Okay.
And also the picture that you showed was an apartment, looked like a
It's only a
fourplex.
picture. I gotta take that down, because people get fixated at pictures.
Yeah, that's not a cabin, that's an apartment.
You're right. I gotta change that picture, so I apologize, but that's what that is.
Okay, thanks.
gotcha. So just to sort of piggyback off what Ian said, we're talking about like very limited long-term housing. You mentioned maybe 3 people there.
Yes.
You see their existing property in Clarksville, I think it's a good example of what it
Yeah.
is. It's a single house that has
Yeah.
3 bedrooms.
That's more comforting. I feel more comfortable with that.
I'm glad you asked the question.
Yeah.
I'm glad I got to clarify that for
Yeah.
anybody who may have, but it's been brought up once before, so
Okay.
I appreciate the question. Thank you.
Perfect.
Any Any other questions for us? Again, thank you all for taking the time out and coming here. I think I've met a few of you already before. Those of you who are neighbors and remember us from years ago, tent meetings. Again, we are the same people. We've been there. We haven't gone anywhere, and we're happy to be in the community. Okay.
I'm sorry. Once before during the community meeting, someone mentioned about security. So that person that's staying on the site, will they be the person responsible for security on your site?
That is true. That is correct. Yes, 24-hour, 24/7. It's a guarantee for us because I like North Nashville, but it has its issues.
So in the event, in case something happened, you're saying the neighbors would be able to contact that individual that's living on site?
I would highly recommend dial 911, but yes.
But yeah, no, they will dial 911, but I'm just saying to have a body.
Yes, there is somebody you should be able to knock on that door too, and that's what we do with the parsonage here.
Okay, because there is property that you can't reach the landlord and this.
Right.
Just trying to make sure that's off the
a good
table.
point,
So
yeah.
what you're saying is there will be a contact person on site.
That is
all
our
the
goal.
time.
That is our
Okay.
goal. Yes, ma'am, especially with the investment that we've made or looking to make. Yes.
Can you click on the parcel that the church currently owns? That's the only one?
Yes.
Oh.
So these other parcels are all part of,
Okay, and then
Yes.
to the right, which is closest to Briley, which is the IR zoning,
This one you're saying?
is Eskimos.
this is me, yes.
Well, I have a question that may not be able to be answered, but what prevents the church from going ahead and just building on their own property so that we don't have a warehouse?
Well, it wouldn't prevent it. I mean, the warehouse still can happen. So right now, the warehouse.
This warehouse can happen, it'll be smaller than what you want.
Smaller than what I want, and it makes it a right turn in, right turn out.
Yeah,
So it becomes,
I know
yes.
all that, but, I mean, just breaking this down, let's say council doesn't approve that, you still have a piece of land, the church does, that's buildable for your church, is large enough, I'm not sure, I think, acreage-wise, for your church. So, you know, when I isolate the two projects, and I go, you know, I like your project, okay, for example, and you have by right already the land to do it with, but this swap, I guess, has some kind of financial incentive that allows you, that allows you to build what you need because of this land swap. There's obviously financial advantage as well. Because I just need to know more about that. You don't have to tell me about the details, but that is what.
So for those who, I just want to make sure everybody understands what she just said is the incentive that goes back 3 years when it was first proposed to us, because we're fine all by ourselves. I want to be very clear. We've been there. That was our plan, to do what we're saying. But the incentive comes where it will allow him to, he'll explain his spiel, Ryan will, but it allows us to do those things more accelerated and get to where we want to be at a better pace. This is just long-standing. What we're looking at now is a great opportunity for us to build it within the lifetime for a lot of our older members, and they were like, well, okay, let's see what he has to say and see what happens. And that's where we go.
So to understand you correctly, to say that the church currently has the finances to build what they want to build, and that it's fine, and that this actually is going to accelerate. Obviously, you're going to get some land and some cash to do it faster. But you said that you're fine, so I'm just confused about the.
So let me take those words, right? Instead of you putting them in my mouth, I'm going to speak them this way. Let me make sure I'm clear. The church is alive with this opportunity.
Okay.
And we would like to take it. That's where we are. Okay. I don't want to discuss our finances.
Well, I think it's important because in order for this to happen, this is all a big package deal. So if this happens and the church does not have the finances as a result of doing this, then we're left with a warehouse and no church. See what I'm saying? So it's kind of understanding a little bit more about the actual, structures.
Yeah. So
going to guarantee this is going to happen?
The church is going to be. There's nothing encumbering us right now. Nothing.
Okay.
All right. That's it.
This is my main concern, and I hate to interrupt, but I've got to get to 7 o'clock, and there's so many things about this opportunity, let's call it an opportunity, that remains questions in my mind. Number one is TDOT will not allow them to build on that one parcel.
I didn't do the traffic study, I'd have
Right,
to.
but TDOT will not allow them to
Has
have
done that.
an egress and regress on that property for the warehouse.
Well, right turn they will.
Yeah, right there, they will.
Not prohibiting building
Right,
two
right.
different things.
So here's my concern, is that I know of no one on Cato Road in any of the neighborhoods that wants this done. I have spoken with several of them, and I know of no one that wants it done. You said at the last meeting on June the 6th, that if the community didn't want it, you guys wouldn't do it.
And I stand behind that.
Well, no one in the community wants it.
Are you saying you're speaking for the entire community?
Let's get them in here and do a survey.
Well, that's what we're doing, sir. Community meeting.
But here's the situation. The ones that I've spoken to, I've lived there 40 years, okay? And everyone that I know of, that I've had an opportunity to speak with, is not able to voice a proper, you can't get them all in here. They're all gonna come, they're all at different times, et cetera. But no one I know of in the community, the overwhelming majority of the community does not want this.
So now, when you say this, what are you referring to? Just a,
The access on Cato Road, et cetera, or the warehouse.
Wait, you're saying they don't want the church?
No, they don't care if the church builds on their property. They don't want to have the access that, on Cato Road, okay? Because it's just it doesn't comply with Nashville Next. It's not anything for the future growth of the city that's want to have a rural area that's the long-range plans. The second part of it is that you guys were operating out of a 40,000 square foot warehouse, right?
no, sir.
You were on Centennial Boulevard, back through there.
We ran out of space and we were operating on 89,000 feet.
But you moved out to aCH Turner. You're leasing property.
We're leasing 130,000 feet.
Okay, you're leasing.
And we don't have enough space.
Okay,
right now.
you don't have enough space, so.
So this is a long-term plan for us as well, so that's
Correct,
that's the
how
reason we're
how
having
much
this buy.
space? Empire, which is across the street, what's their warehouse size?
I'm not sure exactly, my guess would be 200,000 or something.
Now, they had 110,000 and they added, recently did a little addition for some offices. So you have the largest wholesaler in this area that operates in less space than you do.
Empire's not the largest operator in the area.
They have, their portfolio is quite a bit bigger than yours.
I mean, I'll
You can check it out.
disagree with the size of
Okay,
Empire.
so here's
here's
the point I'm trying to make, is that you're trying to put a 360,000 square foot warehouse.
Well, one, I don't know, I don't know exactly the size it would be. I mean, at this point,
That's what you presented.
Well, would you rather know like what can? I'm trying to show you the maximum of how big the square would be. I mean, I can tell you very safely, once we go through civil engineering, we go through all the pieces that we're gonna need from landscaping, buffers, all like that, it'll not be that long. It's gonna shrink. Topo.
So it's going to shrink. Well, how can anyone make a decision until you finally decide what you're gonna do?
But from a use perspective, I mean, nothing changes. So if the building is 300,000 feet, or if it's 320,000 feet, or if it's 280,000 feet, it's gonna.
It makes a
be the
big
exact
difference
same use.
it makes a big difference because you're not gonna let that space be empty.
So
you're going to lease that space out in additional traffic. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, especially when you've got a 300,000 square foot warehouse space that was next to your newly renovated office down on Cockrell Bend that you had an opportunity to lease.
No, I tried to buy it. I tried multiple times.
Well, I understand buying and leasing are two different issues.
Well, I'm a family business and I'm looking to lease
I
property.
know
from others,
I
so
know your dad.
I'm very
I knew
clearly
your dad, so
I
I'm
my
aware.
business operations and how I want to function as a business, and owning versus leasing is what we do in our own purview as a
I
business.
understand. That's all yours. The fact of the matter is that you can't build what you want to build without this gentleman's church agreeing to swap that property or sell it, and you buy the other, let them give the found
I would be with 176,000 feet, I could build and I could get access easement through his property, not the same thing, and
Yeah, I think
and
that's
have
the-
exit through Cato Road.
Well, then I think that that's what you need to
But
pursue.
no, but I think the important thing here is like you made the comment last time, like let's roll the dice. I think the two options are one, you have the church on Cato Road, right? There's gonna be a new lot line that completely breaks Best Friends away from Cato Road.
I understand that.
I'm trying to.
But
I
no,
want
if
to-
you, but if you don't do this deal, then you have an industrial user, it may be Best Friends, it may not be Best Friends, who now has access to Cato Road.
You still have to go through the planning commission approval. You still gotta get 27 council.
Not if
votes.
they just do 176,000
For
square
the
feet
IR
on the IR
zone,
zoning.
we don't have to do that.
So, and you don't have to, that's the
I
thing.
think then that's what you need to do. I can't imagine that TDOT would allow tractor trailers, 18-wheelers access on Cato
Well,
Road.
Cato Road's not a state highway, one.
Okay, that's
so-
okay.
but-
I can't believe NDOT would.
But here's the thing though, like, you're gonna have to have access on Cato Road if you don't have the two properties on Ashland City Highway. That's just what's gonna happen.
But they would,
Because you can't take away access.
And they would allow all of my office.
You also can't remove access forever from properties on Cato Road. Like say, for some reason, someone buys the Cato Road properties, not Ashland, like, you can't just remove that access.
I
It's gotta
understand.
be there.
Somebody, and that still happens there. It's not in the neighborhood's best interest to have this going on as is currently laid out with us.
I'm sorry, I didn't get your name again.
I'm Steve Francesca.
Yeah, so Mr. Francescan, again, two statements. One, and you said there's nobody who is interested in this deal.
I know of no one.
Well, that's a good statement. I can agree with that. Okay. Because I've been approached by numbers of folks so far from the community. Again, statement two is, we were sitting there and watched development of things happen around us. If you've been there 40 years, then you can attest to that. So I felt a little bit the way you do about development and encroachment and all the, we weathered through it, again, with that plan. But again, opportunities come up, and therefore the planning commission and various other entities will go through that. But I don't want to go with loaded statements that will tell us nobody wants to approve this. And
I know
all
of no
those things.
one that I've
I
spoken to.
can agree with that statement, but
Okay,
you said it
well,
first.
let's see, you
Nobody
said
wants
if the majority does not want it, then you're not willing to do it, to move forward.
Well,
That's what you do.
again,
That's,
loaded statement, I want to make sure. That's why we're having.
I understand.
Okay.
But what was your statement? Your statement last time, if we're not wanted, if the community does not want us, we will not
That
do
was
it.
last time, and that was this time.
Okay,
And-
so let's
and I'm
find out
gonna
if
go
the
with
community,
that.
let's find out if the community wants you, number
So,
one.
I appreciate your input on that, and I was hoping that, give them the opportunity.
I know, but I've
And
got to
Steve,
get.
the other piece I will tell you is, I agree with you, I don't want my trucks, I don't want any of my people going down Cato Road because I'm a business, and that's why I want to go down Ashland City, which is a thoroughfare for plenty of big trucks and place. I'm the least obtrusive trucks compared to what's going down Ashland City.
We just
Step
went
one.
through this 3 years ago with Smyrna Ready Mix.
My trucks are nothing like Smyrna running
I
Mix. You know that,
understand.
if you know what we
understand.
do. And then the other piece I'll say is, I'm looking for, based on community feedback, we're not looking for a strict IR zoning. We want to reduce the scope of the zoning. I want to make sure you're not having a chemical company, you're having anything within IR scope. We're going to reduce it to warehouse operations because this is what we are doing. I'm not trying to build something and sell to someone else. You're talking to the owner, you're talking to the person you come knock on the door and have your complaints with. This isn't some corporation from another place.
Understand.
And I have plenty of people
wholeheartedly.
who work at Best Brands who live in this community, so I can tell you they're very much in support as well.
I understand, but it is the people that live on Cato Road and in the Jordan Ridge subdivisions, the overwhelming majority, everyone that I spoke to, I've yet to speak to any individual that wants this done.
That wants a warehouse on Ashland City, that wants a church, like, which
Does
is,
not want access on
multiple
Cato
different
Road.
pieces.
Access on Cato Road.
But the access on Cato Road exists, it's not whether or not it's.
The property exists on Cato Road, there's no access there.
Well, so,
Can-
time out,
that's a point of
industrial
clarification.
access on Cato Road or any access period, because you can't get rid of the access altogether.
That are not wanting any of the access, that do not care for the church to come in and have all that in there. You're looking at several issues. It basically, the church has existing property. I understand the financial incentive for them to make the swap or do the deal to sell you their property and then buy the other property. I understand that financial access. Okay, I understand the financial interest to it. Makes sense, business decision. But there's a decision to be made on whether or not the community wants this on Cato Road.
Can I jump
And-
in? For
yeah.
a second? Can I jump in?
Sure.
So just playing this back, I want to make sure that I understand this accurately. So you guys currently own this parcel that's touching Ashland City Highway, is that right?
So I own this parcel, this one right here. So everything that's on the Raleigh Parkway
Okay.
corridor.
Gotcha. And you're trading those to the church for what? Which one?
For this property.
For that one. Okay.
So right now, this is zoned IR, so the way, I don't have it drawn together, but it's zoned IR, what we did is a study where we could build a warehouse right there.
Yep.
And what we do is have tractor trailers do right turn in, right turn out, and then for 16-foot box, and for our employees, we would be able to make the turn to go back over to Raleigh, you go through Cato and kind of loop back around.
But
So that was
the property on Cato, what's that zone?
RSS.
It's not IR. The top, and that top slice also is.
Yeah, but none of that industrial would be on that property, it'd just be access.
It's just access, so it doesn't apply on access.
That's the thing, like, those roads are gonna have, you can't, Metro's not gonna let you do any type of subdivision or anything where the property on Cato is landlocked and so it can't be accessed. Like,
And I would say
access
safely as well,
always-
like if there was a church back there, the fire is not gonna allow the fire access to be that far removed from the church parcel and everything else. If something occurred, they're gonna go through an industrial,
What were the conditions that the planning commission turned us down?
it was just IR.
It
So-
doesn't mean land use policy, it's
Correct.
T2.
Well, it's against.
Because rural.
It's rural, and that's the way we want to keep it.
It's
They
T2.
turned down us, pushing through as a strict procedural IR. So, I mean,
Four
it
of those
wasn't-
members at that meeting, and I happen to have been there, they said it was a great plan. They turned it down because of the procedure, and therefore it is left up to them.
I think one thing in general that is just a concern of folks in the neighborhood in general, like whether it's residential, whether it's industrial, we just don't want more traffic on Cato.
Right.
Just stating that. And so I want to hear Ian's point. But you guys are like, if this goes through, you guys would take that red parcel and your access would be
Yeah, here,
on
I'll
Ashland City
pull that
Highway.
stuff so you can see it. So we take the red parcel and our entire building site, our office, or everything would be pushing onto Ashland. So nothing on my property would, or nothing
touch
within the
Cato.
business would ever touch Cato.
Would ever
And
touch
and
Cato.
while you're asking that question,
Yeah.
the reason it's an issue is because you've got the median or whatever you want to call it right here. And so the property line currently, you can't really see it, it's a shaded line. So when Ryan and Eskimo team bought this, like, they explored this access right here, but it was a no-go with TDOT. So
Mhm.
at that point, I mean, you can go right in, right out, but like, you had this access too.
Because the median is too
It's 'cause
close.
it's too close to
the
Riley,
intersection.
yeah.
We drove to Cato and like, this isn't gonna work, like, let's
Sure.
figure out a solution where the box trucks aren't going, and that's what led to the conversation with the church 3 years ago.
Understood. So it's the church that would have the access on Cato, not you guys.
We're removing our access entirely.
It's
Gotcha.
gonna be a subdivision and replatting where the lot line,
So this is the lot line, this becomes church property, and then this becomes,
all
Gotcha.
these four, all
I
these
wanna
lot
hear-
lines right here gets removed, and then there's one line right about here.
Okay,
And so that's church property, which Eskimo can't access.
right.
And then this is industrial property, which is all on Ashland City Highway.
and the
Gotcha.
last piece of that was, well, what if the church leaves, and we changed zoning and stuff, and that's why we also went through we changed it to an SP process. Based on what you said, saying, hey, if the church leaves, it reverts back to RS15, there is no
Mhm.
kind of grandfathered in zoning that's outside of.
I wonder if it's possible to like write that, because I.
Yes.
We know, we have.
No, I know that that's possible, like what I was just kind of hypothesizing
Yeah,
for a
so like
second.
that's what we're talking about, like a substitute bill being done that includes language, these are four that we put together, and circulated an email and got that you sent to the people who attended the last 2 meetings. But yeah, I mean, this is what the proposal is now that we'd like to continue talking about. It's talking about the religious institution on the northern parcel.
Yep.
Yeah, if that is no longer a religious institution, you reverse RS zoning. The uses on the southern parcel are limited to warehouse, which is one of the many uses that are available in IR. IR is the most restrictive, it's industrial restrictive of the industrial uses.
Yep.
But it does have multiple uses. So warehouse runs into like, this is what this is.
Yep.
Because you can store, there's other storage stuff you can do with an IR that would
This is
not-
making
not
more
be-
sense to
Not
me.
be within
Yeah.
what the community wants.
Gotcha.
I'm talking about, I'm taking boxes in, boxes out, there's no manufacturing, anything of any kind happening with what we do.
I
And
understand
this
what
would
you
be
mean.
attached to the council bill, so it would travel with the land. Like there's now a bill associated with the property, and the property can't be redeveloped without overturning this bill.
With overturning the SP, yeah. I appreciate you explaining this. I like still want to talk more about it as a group.
We're hearing that too, so.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate you guys saying that.
And
I want to talk
can
more
I
as
ask
a
you a
group.
question as a relative newbie to this process? I haven't heard the TDOT comments on accessing Briley Parkway, and I don't know the topography well enough to know where it's way up there in the air and where it actually could. So explain why you can't connect.
TDOT is right here, so the property line is pretty much right here. So we were talking about having an access point.
Right, but why couldn't the church access Briley Parkway?
I was saying from a fire standpoint, it's the distance of that being the only
Just in
ingress
general,
would
is
be
there something we do or not?
the church. And then
Oh,
also,
yeah.
and then the thing
I wanna hear
is,
your
this
thoughts.
is also
Yeah,
straight
you had
to
your
the
hand
road
up.
right there.
Yeah,
Why,
So that's-
so
I think it should stay
why
AR.
can't the church
I
just
think it should
access
stay rural.
on the Briley Parkway instead of?
There's only
AR
one
too.
interchange with Ashland City Highway, right there.
Oh, right onto Briley Parkway, you're saying, because Briley Parkway is
Yeah.
state highway, down below.
AR is rural, so it's 2 houses per acre.
It's like, it's.
So no warehouse on AR though, right? No.
That's not it. Okay, it's limited access.
Agricultural,
And that's
agricultural
so
stuff.
Just to give you an idea as well, this shows you kind of that point right here, so you think about the warehouse behind here,
Right.
that's hitting the topo.
Could they have IR either like access point on Ashland City Highway and then keep the other one AR?
Yeah,
They could do it just where they are and just have to turn right.
down here, so I mean, you're pretty much talking about.
But they want to expand the footprint.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm trying to hear, but it's too many conversations
I want to hear
going on.
I want to hear you talking to these guys.
Yes.
If we don't mind.
So, what I was saying, what Bert was asking is why we can't go directly.
Well, no, I heard her
Okay.
question, but it's like, excuse me,
Hey.
Mr. Yeah, we're trying to hear.
I gotta step
If you
out,
don't mind,
I'll be
yeah.
right back.
Thank you.
So I'll just finish this and
I
I'll
wanna
take
ask,
that
I
call.
wanna hear, response to her question, that's what I was.
So I was
trying
saying,
to
so
do.
the Briley Parkway drops off right there, so and also it's a state highway, so there's no access outside of what's already existing. And then the other piece she was saying, well, would be the distance we're talking about here, being, if the church is back here, I can safely say fire is not gonna allow that distance to even go through. On top of, I think, I have my own safety concerns of having a church, I've had kids, and you name it, kind of going through.
And one
Well,
access.
One access
Yeah.
and going through, which is a truck. I mean, I don't, if they have kids that are gonna be there, I don't feel safe with kids going through. I mean, our place is very secure, and I wanna make sure I don't have kids running through a parking lot theoretically. I mean, not saying that's gonna happen, but I mean, that's a real thing that could happen if they're coming once a year, they don't really know what's happening in regular, that's where there's real concern there. And then what I was saying is the topos, you're kind of hitting a high point here. And so this area would be one, sitting much lower. I mean, you're talking.
Talk a little bit about the warehouse around it, how big it is.
You're talking about a 32-foot clear warehouse, so from a standpoint, if you think if this is 470 here, I mean, we're gonna be hitting that, let's just say if it, whatever balances out at 470, or just be round numbers, then it's gonna be at 505 feet.
Above sea level.
Above sea level, and we're talking, so 505 feet, we're talking about the high point over here being 550. So I mean, from a standpoint of view shed and that sort of piece, I mean, we're well below any view shed on the Cato, so if I think from a aesthetic standpoint of people saying, oh, I'm gonna see a warehouse in my backyard, you won't have to worry in that capacity, because our warehouse is gonna sit below kind of where the elevation ridge is.
So, hold on, did that answer your question?
Yes, it did.
Okay, because I had another question as well, so.
You had a question, sorry, you asked a
No,
question.
I'd like to hear.
I think she had
Yeah,
a question.
I
so
don't know.
I
Oh,
just-
I'm
she's
sorry.
had a question.
Go ahead.
The previous meeting, I talked to Chip
Yeah.
about a necessary easement for the church to go onto the left side of the perimeter of the land that you would be taking, swapping with them. And then basically, like, the church would have its own, like, necessary easement to the back that would be separate from yours. And that way it would eliminate any kind of access from Cato Road, so that would have any traffic there. So the only traffic that would come through would be from Ashland City Highway. So the church would have like some kind of like buffer and then a necessary easement off on the left side, you know, and then they can go back to their property, and that way they have a direct line also for fire or anything else. And then your warehouse would be on the right side to house all your business and, you know, your trucks flow and everything like that. I mean, overall, I think that, you know, people, you know, they don't want the extra traffic on Cato Road, obviously, but that might be a way to come to a solution for all parties, because I mean, obviously, you're a business owner and you want to run your business, and this is a good opportunity for you. Church wants to build, they want to do that, but we got to make sure too that you're, you know, accommodating the community that's around it and listening to their concerns of traffic. And if you can do that by making everybody happy, a necessary easement could be a solution to that issue.
But
You know?
the other thing I think, yes, and there's no way to eliminate access on Cato Road. Like, you can as a private citizen put up gates, things like that, but like metros are not going to allow a property exchange to happen where you have a property on Cato Road that doesn't have access, when it has frontage on a public street, that it's not actually accessing that frontage, that street.
What if that area though is like barricaded off and it's not usually used, it's only for emergency cases for like fire or something like that?
Well,
That's what I'm kind of like thinking, because that would lessen the traffic, but understandable if the church caught on fire or something like that,
Sure.
maybe easy access. Obviously, getting access to the gate on Cato Road would probably be sufficient enough, but I think their more concern is just the traffic on Cato Road, because I lived in Jordan Bridge, like right when you pass the bridge, and obviously that's our only access point, and
Right.
like if anything happens there,
No, exactly.
we're like stuck, yeah. And that's just my main concern, and like I said, I'm not opposed for you guys like coming in and doing your stuff, because I mean, obviously you have a business, church wants to do what they want to do, and it's good that y'all are investing in the community. But at the same time too, like the community needs to like know and have that reassurance that that extra traffic won't go on Cato Road, and you're welcome to conduct your business as usual.
Mm-hmm. Well,
You know?
I mean, I guess what I kind of spoke to a little bit, I mean, for my business, 100%, I don't want any traffic on Cato Road. I agree with you, and that's kind of why we started the dialogue with the church in the first place, because it was very clear. I don't need to be having any sort of truck or any sort of traffic going through right here. It didn't make sense.
Yeah.
The church is limited in its uses. I think he didn't give enough kind of summary around everything that they do from a community standpoint. So I think there's opportunity for this to be a community meeting point, community gathering place. If we're doing this sort of meeting, I mean, it could be at the church future, that sort of piece. I think there's a big opportunity there for people in the Cato Ridge community to use this. And so I think twofold would be, one, saying that I think this is an opportunity for, because of the limited use, this could be, I mean, they have a playground probably. They're gonna have, I mean, there's various pieces that some people in the community might want to use with their kids. So I think there's that. And then from a safety standpoint, I still go back to, if I'm having tractor trailers, box trucks, those sort of pieces, that sort of thing, it scares me to have church traffic, and for that matter, especially traffic that's coming once a year, going through, maybe go the wrong gate, to go, I mean, just you name it. I'm not saying something can happen. I mean, we're not cement trucks or something of that nature, but still, it's box trucks and it's.
No, understandable, and that's what I'm saying, like, if you did do a necessary easement, do theirs going off to the left side with some signage or something saying, hey, this is the church direction, you know, or this is the church, you know, and then your access would be coming from the right side, you know what I'm saying? And like the meeting point would be, you would have the entrance, obviously, it would be one, but then it would be diverted to the left side for church and then the right side for, you know, all your business.
You're still gonna have the church and Best Friends using the same curb cut.
Yes.
Same curb cut in Ashland City, and I would also tell you, just from additional infrastructure to build, to bring a road all the way back here, and then also even to go down that, I mean,
would you necessarily have to go down that, or could you not cut through and have that green space area and just cut through from the top?
That's the top of the mountain.
Yeah, that's, I mean, everything, it's just, I mean, it's still topo here, but it's just straight topo.
Yeah.
And I mean,
They're already
this
cutting
is
down trees.
560, I think, here, and this goes like 660 over there, so it gets even higher.
I know, but you're developing the land, so like, you know, to his point, you're already cutting down trees and stuff, you know, and going through that process. So I'm just saying, like, you can make it look aesthetically nice for, you know, yourself and the church, and have some kind of barrier to let you know the difference. But I mean, I think that would be the best compromise for like all, into agreement to get people on board to want to like have this, you know, in their community. Because I'm not opposed to it. It's like, you know, I'd rather have a warehouse, you know, in an industrial zone than having a factory or something to that extent. So, I mean, I see like the benefit on that end. You know?
And this is, I mean, and I can tell you from our standpoint, I mean, Steve mentioned the sizing, that sort of piece. I mean, this is a 30-year plan. This is something where I'm doing this. If I do 176,000 feet, that's a 5 or 10-year plan, and then it's the next person, and I don't know what they do. I mean,
you know,
I think this gives you some relief, and that's the IR is even less restricted. We're not even going to have IR anymore. It's going to be less. It's going to have an SP on it, so it gives you more more restrictions on it. So I think that's also hopefully a win as well.
I want to put a stake in the ground, which is to say that the access on Cato is clearly an issue for everyone. Additionally, the expansion of industrialization of District 1 is also an issue. And so putting a warehouse where maybe we want to have residences, this is a legacy zoning. It was zoned in '82, and it happens to have been there. And now we have this situation where, well, there's this legacy zoning, what are we going to do with it? What should happen is that should be reverted and normalized for the rest of it. We've got this sort of legacy zoning situation, which means that it's likely that something's going to go there, but it's not that people want a warehouse in a rural area. It's like, that's just not the case. And I'm trying to wrap my head around that.
You gotta keep in mind, I mean, we're talking fronting Ashland City and what's right here, we're talking warehouse right here, I mean, so we're in very much a circle of.
Exactly, and this is exactly why the expansion of industrialization is a problem, because it's now, we're next door to a warehouse, let's put another warehouse. Oh, it's already there, so let's just keep doing it. The fact is that legacy zoning was done in '82, and then Jordan Ridge and Gilmore Crossing came up, and the city reacted and came up with Nashville Next and put a conservation overlay over everything and said, we don't want this kind of development anymore. We've got this legacy, IR zoning, which is weird in light of everything that's happened around over the last 40 years with the development and the reaction to that development, which is to say, conserve this area. And now we're talking about putting a 330,000 square foot warehouse on it, which is going to, I don't know, I can't even talk to the environmental aspects of it, but I just know from the standpoint of the National Next Plan and the intention of the community was to say we want to preserve all this stuff. Now, we have this legacy zoning, which we've got to work out, but to me, expanding it is personally in the wrong direction.
I have a question about why you're cutting so many trees down. I get it, you have a building site that's going to be huge, but this is actually part of the Highland Rim Forest. I'm not sure if you looked at the map. And this literally just came in front of the council like 2 weeks ago, where they're trying to preserve and conserve the largest forest in Middle Tennessee. And this is literally right on the edge of it. And this is not a good start to conserving that forest, I guarantee it. And if you could, the Cato Road thing, that's debatable. I think that's something that I think the community would fight that later on if you wanted to do this. But you're cutting down way too many trees. You're going to end up flooding Bordeaux, and you're also going to end up flooding and putting hydroplaning onto Briley Parkway, because there's an actual large floodplain in between. It's basically right where the church is. And the reason why it's a massive floodplain is because water's going into Briley Parkway and then it's just puddling back, because it just stops at Briley. But if it does go through Briley, it's going to end up flooding Bordeaux because it's all part of the Whites Creek watershed as well. So
you can see from the floodplain, there is no.
That's FEMA. So anybody that understands.
And then from a water piece, we're doing all the stormwater necessary.
Yeah, but Metro is 30.
Right? Is that what you're talking about?
The time that Metro builds infrastructure, it's already 30 years behind. They're not taking into effect climate change. They're following FEMA maps, which are outdated. They're not accurate. They're probably missing half of the floodplain area in the entire United States, because they also offer insurance, which is a conflict of interest to me personally. But I think it's something that you really need to look at keeping trees on that property, because it is just going to be a mudslide. It's just going to be, because it is a hill. It's a relatively tall hill that is just going to slam into Briley. You're going to have hydroplaning on Briley. It's going to be, because that's all forested right now. And if you take that away, it's going to have a horrible impact.
There is a legacy pad on the church property. They did, I think, back in the late 80s, I believe it was.
Stormwater only requires you keep the first inch of rain on the property, right? And do you know how many 1+ inch rains we get every year? It's probably upwards of 10 to 15.
Well, you have to keep it, but you also have to evaluate what's currently there, and you can't put more than what you did. And when you have a forested area like this, the requirements just go up.
Yes, our 1 inch will not be the case for us. It would be much more stringent.
When it's a wooded area, it's the highest level of retention that it currently gets, so their requirements go up as a result.
Can you say that again?
So when they have a whole design handbook that says when you're adding impervious surface. So you have pervious surface beforehand, and then there's a bunch of different kinds. There's sand, clay, whatever. So whatever it is determines the design criteria and how much you have to store, retain, and the rate at which you can release it. So forested area is actually like the highest level of requirement that there is on in the stormwater manual. And so it really heightens the design requirements from the civil.
But I don't think anybody has any faith in stormwater. I mean, I know you guys do because you want to put a development there. No, I mean, they are completely outdated, antiquated. We actually had a meeting about another warehouse that surprisingly they want to put in District 1. Well, I guess this will be 3 or 2. And we had a meeting, and then when someone approached them about what can we do to stop this from flooding, a black neighborhood downstream, and the guy goes, "Did you think about moving?" Like, that's stormwater's reaction to what can we do to make this a better plan is basically get the hell out of there. So I don't think anybody has any faith in that. So I know, but you're still going to rely on the minimum requirements that they have. I mean, you're not going to go above and beyond. Not looking at the amount of trees you cut down, you're not.
Well, again, that's a schematic plan too. I mean, that is a representation of.
I understand. It's not final plan. I get that.
What by code in an IR area, the land area that can be done. As soon as you start getting into how much do we need for retention, stormwater, the landscape buffer that.
And that's showing, you see it's showing a very giant storm pond, but that's it. Like, it's just at this point, like, in general, we think it's this many cubic feet. It wasn't, there's not a.
We've got surveys going out to pick up trees, we got certain caliper that you can't cut down.
We had hydraulic studies done by independent environmental engineers and stuff. We're going through all the processes to make sure we're doing it.
I understand. Nature always wins, though, and looking at that is, I don't see how you're going to be able to have the same flood retention or the water retention that a forest has with that. I know that that's not final, but I just don't see it. Especially if you're going to have a massive warehouse there. I mean, that's going to also hurt the flooding as well. So I'll stop. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's okay. We're, as a community, we're always kind of forced to look at aerial maps, and I see, the topography is something that, it's just a flat thing we're looking at.
Right.
And I just keep thinking about what the topography and how much you're going to are you grading and blasting to get down to the level of where the road is? Or do you have to do very much? Can you kind of just walk us through how much is going to actually just be removed in addition to the trees, because the trees are growing on hills?
So I can't tell you from like an exact of what we're doing because we haven't done it. So in general, what I can tell you is it'll be a little bit of an uphill to get to the property. So I think you can do a 10%. I think 10% is the max you'll have to do. So we'll stay within 10% because we'll try to keep that grade as high as we can without cutting away. And then what I tell you from a grading on site, we're gonna do our best. I mean, our ideal is we're making a balanced site. So we're gonna be moving dirt within the site to keep it flat. So we're not trying to take things away, we're not trying to haul anything in. So part of what the work is with the civil engineers that we use will be to balance the site. So we do our best. And so without actually doing all the borings and actually really going into a full schematic design, I can't give you exact numbers, but I can tell you very much that we're gonna try our best to, one, reduce the amount of elevation change, and then two, try to balance the site as best we can.
You're saying it's a gentle slope to the west. Is that what you're saying? And then it's to
Excuse me, I'm sorry, it's hard for me. Can you? Thank you.
It's a gentle slope that would be the west, right? Going to the left, right? And then up above it where the church will be on the other side of that big tall hill, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because then that's that. Are there any streams, blue line streams through there?
It is one stream, it's one creek going over
There's
that
one
side.
other thing that is with a hydrologic determination we had done, and I couldn't send an email, this is like a 100 meg file, but I'm happy to share it. Is there is a jurisdictional body toward.
But no, there is a.
No, what's shown on the map, I'm saying we had it tested, it's not accurate.
But there is a creek, there is one that goes down that way, because after the last meeting,
further on down
I went
the
back
way
and I
it
looked
is.
at it. No, it's right along that side of Briley Parkway. So it kind of curves and go like under it, but it is a creek there.
So these show up on
there's one up top.
These show up on GIS because they have watersheds of over 100 acres. That's how Metro determines whether or not to show it.
Right, but some of those maps may not pick up everything, that's what we're saying.
Sure.
But, because that is my concern, can you come out a little wider on
Sorry,
that?
I found another computer.
Well, my point is, when he was talking about coming down to Bordeaux, I went back because I wanted to see, where the Weiss Creek was, and
Just a second.
what was between the Weiss Creek and Briley Parkway, what that distance was. Because I think I asked you that first, early on. Because when I first saw that, my concern was when you create that impervious surface, and I know you have to do buffers, you have to retain the water, I know you have to do all of that. But anything that's gonna create another flood, God hope, not like the May 2010 flood, but I'm just looking at where the water is gonna go from the impervious from the surface that you're gonna create. That's why I wanted to see what creek was there that's actually going into the Weiss Creek. And there is a little small creek down through there. You just can't really see it on that map, but I saw it.
So based on the scoring, this is kind of, and again, sorry I can't zoom out anymore.
But that's fine, I just wanted
Yeah.
to make sure that was noted, that there is a creek there.
They've got the suspect wetwater conveyance, and they've got the suspect stream up here. Right now, because there's a bunch of turmoil with EPA, the Army Corps actually isn't doing any evaluations right now, so they don't. I don't think they have a definition of waters in the United States right now, because the
Supreme Court overruled the environmental things, and now you have.
Chaos.
So they're not, the Army Corps isn't doing any site visits or anything. So
I just wanted to
we're not-
make sure,
yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that we are noting that.
Yes.
Because that's gonna make a difference. Because anything touching the White's Creek
Sorry.
is trying to make its way to the Cumberland River, which comes down around that way. I just want to make sure that's noted out in the open. So, you will have those that have concerns because you are taking away the trees and you are creating what you're creating. So I'm just wanting to make sure that we consider that fact as well. So even if the creek makes its way under Briley Parkway and touches the Weiss Creek, it's still funneling through downstream. So I just want to make sure that's not overlooked, whether we acknowledge it, you see it on there or not. That's what I'm watching, because there was some of those little small creeks that fed into the Weiss Creek that added to that influx. So I just want to make sure, and in your picture that you, maybe you didn't announce it or talk about it, I wanted to know where this was.
That's in the Metro Code.
No, I mean on your plan.
Yeah, I'll show you.
Yeah.
So when the land swap is completed, there'll be a property line right here. And we will have a D buffer, which depends on, you can make it wider.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah,
So which one?
so if you make it wider, you don't have to plant as many trees. If you make it more narrow, you plant more trees.
Okay.
And so that buffer is gonna be all around all these ends.
Okay, so what's coming along the back side?
Right here?
Yeah.
Along Briley?
Yeah, along the opposite side of where Briley Parkway is.
That's gonna be the D buffer.
No, not that. Come down to the other side. What's coming along that side? That's where I'm talking about. That's what I want.
You know, I
Clear
don't
cut.
know that, I think that may require a buffer. I'm not
It's,
sure.
it has to.
Yeah, I mean,
Because
just next to the railway, because I guess this would be, I don't know what that's,
Not that side, but your side.
Yeah.
That's what I want to see. So if you have this, if you have something like that for the other side, I see the opposite side. So it's like it's bringing everything this side. But I want to know what's going along that side, because that's where my concern is.
Sure.
That would be my main concern.
Okay.
Even though.
About what's facing Briley, you're saying?
Your buffers, and I know we can go and look at what stormwater will require, but I think we, the community, would be asking that at any point you can go above and beyond.
Well, you can't put stormwater features in buffers. So,
But you can do retention or retention, you can do something as well. You can
No, that's
do-
right.
You can do what stormwater requires,
Yeah.
but you can also go another step.
what I'm saying.
And add something else.
Yeah, no, you're right. What I'm saying is, I'm saying the same thing. We're gonna have these storm ponds down here.
Right.
Or, no, not
What's
ponds, that's just for
required.
representative. It's gonna be a
Right.
combination of rain gardens, all that type of stuff. But that's gonna be outside of a 30-foot landscape buffer, 30 to 50-foot landscape buffer, which will be right here. So all that'll push plan north. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but, yeah, we can talk more about it, but I just wanna make sure it's in your conversation.
Sure.
Because I see you're addressing the other side, but let's come back the other way and address that, cause that's where I saw that creek. And
Yeah.
so some people, oh, it's just a creek, but no, just a creek can be a creek
Yeah.
if we get an influx of water.
Yeah.
So let's give the community some consolation to know that you are trying to go above and beyond to make sure not 1 ounce of water leave your site.
It's
Even if,
have to leave, it's just the rate at which. it
but
leaves.
I mean, you know, you're gonna control whatever you can control,
Yeah.
but anything that's beyond your control, but give the community some sort of relief. Not that we're just doing the bare minimum that stormwater requires, cause if there's already concern about stormwater, then you go the step above and beyond to add added measures, with whatever you can to ease the community, because you're asking them to support something that you're encroaching upon them. So give them whatever they're asking for if you're wanting support for the project. That's my
Well said.
comment.
Can you go back to the slide that, excuse me, did I?
Good. No.
Can you go back to the slide that shows the zoning again and put the community character plan over it? Policy. Okay. Is all of that CO?
CO is the,
I know what it is. Is it all
yeah,
CO?
CO is this right here.
All of that is conservation.
It's got that little line right there. And that's because they've overlaid it on top of what they had identified as a 100-year watershed. So what Metro requires us to do is they take areas with large watersheds, from 40 acres to 100 acres, you know all this. And then that's what we have to do an HD, a hydrologic determination, which we've done. And they've identified that this is not a jurisdictional waterway, jurisdictional to either TDEC or the Corps. Does that make sense? There's a lot
Right,
of
the
jurisdiction.
National Next, and the National Next plan is T2, and its CO is a land use policy with an IR stuck in an odd place.
Well,
We don't, you know,
the CO
we can
applies
all
to these.
argue about that as to why the IR is there, we don't really know.
That was there
That's
way
historical,
before
that's
National Next.
historical.
Right.
I'm not gonna ask a question, I'm just gonna make a statement and I'll shut up.
Cause this is all CO2, just so.
I don't feel like a community, I'm not pedestrian, I'm just gonna try to say this as nicely as I can. We shouldn't be solving your problems for you. You bought a piece of property that was IR, that didn't have ingress and egress onto a major highway for your trucks. That's your problem. You bought a piece of property that's really not conducive to what you wanna do to you. And now, you come to the community and ask to swap land, that you'd like to do this with the church because it's gonna be beneficial to them. This is complex. But I have to just, I break down things into pieces and things. And like I was telling the church, he by right, them by right can build. You purchased a piece of property that's not developable as is for your needs. You keep saying you can do it, but you really cannot. You can put 176,000 square foot, that's not big enough for you. You can not go, you can't make a left turn, but you could still do this and not make a left turn. You could just go right and come around.
Or access easement
And,
through the church
right, or
property.
access through Cato Road, which.
No, I'm saying
that's-
access easement through the church property, just the same.
or,
with-
right, do that. But again, you know, you've got a set of problems here that you, by purchasing this piece of property. And I don't mean to be, I don't wanna sound,
We're offering to you. You just-
I don't wanna offend you, but I'm just saying, there wasn't, you know, a really good thought process, unless maybe you talked to the church prior to purchasing, I don't know the history of that. But to come to the community to solve your problem, I think is a reach.
Well, I think it's, sorry.
You know, and it's not just that, it's the fact that this has been deemed T2 rural. I'm just gonna say this over and over again. It's T2 for a reason. We have Nashville Next for a reason. We have developers chipping away at us. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of us having to come and spend a meeting when I wanna go home and watch the Dodgers play baseball tonight, okay? And I'm down here doing this, and I'm not even in this neighborhood. Just let me rant, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's good.
But I'm not even in this neighborhood, but I'm in D1, and we have to protect what we have left. And it's a constant battle with us for years that we've been doing this. And again, I'm sorry you bought a piece of property that is not good for you. I think you should sell it, and I think you should go find a really good piece of property that's IR, that's got the ingress and egress on a major highway that you need. And you don't need to be asking all the folks at Cato Road to help you out with this problem. That's it, that's all I have to say.
So I guess what I was gonna say is, and I appreciate that.
It wasn't a question, that was just.
No, I
me
totally get it.
unloading.
And I would love to get you to come as fast as possible watch the Dodgers. I think what I would say is, I think it's not just our problem, right? I think it's an issue, we've got a legacy zoning from 1982, zoned IR. In your situation, say someone needs 150,000 square feet of warehouse, and they can do 176 here. They're like, great, solve it. And then they can't get out on National City Highway because they can't make the left turn. So they run a road to Cato Road. That's a problem, right? Under this solution, like what we're trying to do is collaborate and come with a situation where there's no trucks on Cato Road.
Well, would NDOT let you go out on the Cato Road with 18 wheelers? That might help you understand.
No, I don't think it
I wasn't
but someone with that stuff.
No, he's just saying if, I mean, we have to go back to this.
No, but he's not saying 18-wheelers, he's saying trucks.
It could
And
be
well,
for
there's
any type of
some
traffic.
18-wheelers, you've said that, and there are a lot of box trucks. My question to you is, it's a simple one. Do you know whether or not NDOT would allow you to use Cato Road as ingress and egress for the types of trucks and the traffic that that you would have to do by right if you wanted to do it on this really undevelopable piece of property for your needs?
Yeah, I absolutely think.
NDOT would allow it?
Yeah, that we have, because we have access on Cato Road. And there's 2 points of access right there for it, and I just don't think that's a good result for box trucks to be using Cato Road.
Well, no, we all agree with
Yeah,
that, but
right.
I'm just saying by right, you're saying you could do.
It's 60 foot wide, and I'm having had the conversation with the contractor.
I mean, the local street requirement is 50 feet, and that's with sidewalk, curb, gutter, travel way. So like, even if that could be a public road, it's good enough to be a public road. It wouldn't be a public road, it's wide.
And then the other thing that just kind of caught me by surprise is I've been at almost, I think, every meeting, maybe I missed one and I watched it. The original discussion, the first discussion was a request for 176,000, 175,000 square feet of warehouse. And then the last email that I received said 300 and.
It's always been.
Which is, I know you said by right now.
No, 176 is by right.
We've shown
I
it
know, but
both
if
ways.
you do the land swap, you can do 300 and some odd. And see, that wasn't told us in the beginning, so it's like there's a lot of moving parts here.
This is the same maps and same thing presented since the beginning.
I know that is the same
No,
map.
I'm saying the other one I showed that we had, that I don't have here, is the 176,000, which is the single parcel, which is what we own currently. So we did show both, just, I want to be very clear that we did show
Okay,
both.
I just never heard, maybe I didn't listen, maybe I never heard 300 and some odd thousand.
There's a lot of talking going on, I get it.
And I have just one more question, because I don't know a lot about warehousing. Would this be like a 1-story, 2-story, 3-story? Would you-
Oh, 1 story.
1 story, and let's say it's 200,000 or 250,000.
So it's 32 foot clear,
And if
and
there's
then you have a little
200,000
bit of roof above that.
And if you have 200,000 square feet of open, is that like about 5 acres?
I don't know on that.
Okay, I just, it's hard for us to visualize when we see these little things, but, we've been working with another developer in another area.
I think 200,000 square feet is 4.59 acres.
So we're looking at about a 4.5 acre building. I just want everybody to kind of visualize that. If you live on a 5 acre tract of land,
I think it's
And
the
if it were
closest
all forested, that's all gone, and then that's all impervious
So
surface.
if you look, I think diagonally across the street over at Empire.
Oh, I don't like living over there, I mean.
That's not a good example.
From a size, I'm saying from a sizing standpoint, if you,
I mean,
if
you
you're
can always have
neighborhood
that.
and want something sizing wise, I think it's
About the same?
maybe 30% bigger than what their facility is. I'm not sure the exact.
Well, it's
I'm
just
saying
a
from a sizing
footprint,
standpoint. if
you know,
you're
it's
doing
just a
that. I don't know how
footprint
big
that I
Hunt's
just
is
wanted to
right
bring
there
up,
either. Is
you know.
Hunt's bigger?
Yeah, you're right, sorry.
Is
I'm
Hunt's-
sorry.
Hunt's Brothers bigger? I'm not sure if it's bigger or smaller.
All
It's
I'm
right
just
there,
saying is
yeah.
for the community to understand footprint sizes and stuff, because when we see things like that, they look little. Doesn't that look little to you all?
Right.
And then when you go, oh, maybe a 4.5 acre warehouse would be there. Just saying. Thank you. I'm sorry. I'm gonna go watch the Dodgers.
I think it's 4.5 acres of warehouse on, what, 25 acres of land, just to give you kind of an approximation
yeah, okay.
of land.
On 25 acres.
I think it's about 20, so I think, I mean, so you think of it from that standpoint as well.
So you're only taking like a quarter of that, you know, for building.
And that's always good to have because.
Just from perspective
Yeah.
standpoint, it's not like
Right.
it's sitting
Like
there
the
on
rest
the
of it's
property
more
lines or whatever, so
pavement,
make sure
parking lot and
everyone
stuff.
thinks of it that standpoint, it's not, yeah, I mean.
Yeah.
And see, that's
And
another.
stormwater is probably 3 acres right there itself.
Oh, I've had to deal with stormwater. I actually work for a builder and developer, so.
Got it.
Yeah. That's not completely, yeah, that's why whenever y'all are talking about stormwater, I'm like, yeah, that might take a while. I was like, believe me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be incredibly difficult.
Yeah, it is, believe me.
Can I ask where are we at? What's next? What's the next step here?
Can I jump in here?
Oh, please.
Okay, so Berkeley Allen, council member at large, and because the current council member has been somewhat absent, as I've heard, I had just said, if the possibility of creating an SP that neighbors feel comfortable with is a solution, I would be willing to carry that. So because of the timing that's happening, I believe that has been filed. I'm still working through that. I said I would file what was disapproved by the planning commission with the plan to substitute it for a specific plan, which includes, my hope, was we would have the kumbaya moment and say, if we did these 10 things, now we're all good with it. I'm not sure I've heard that tonight. But that's the reason that you may see it on the upcoming agenda. So I don't want y'all to think anybody's tried to sneak anything through the plan. This meeting was important to say, can we decide on things? My hope was there's a magic way to not have any traffic on Cato Road, because that clearly is important to everybody. So, I think the immediate where we are is there is a bill, I believe, on the council agenda for next Tuesday.
July 6th.
July 6th, next Thursday, right, because Tuesday is July 4th.
First reading.
First reading, with the intention to have a substitute ready that made this community feel good about it so that nobody shows up and said, we hate this. Because if they do, it's not going to get the 27 votes that it would need to pass. And I don't see any benefit in changing your community plan because that's your protection.
No.
So, so I'm not, nobody's pushing for that. So it would remain requiring the 27 votes. So that's, I just offered to do that to see where the conversation went. And I don't know if there'd be the opportunity for one more meeting to say, have we gotten to something that we're comfortable with or not? I don't feel like we're quite there tonight based on the conversation that we've had.
So a track for the date for
Public hearing would be the first Tuesday in August. And the goal would be to have a substitute ready to go that either people love or we say, okay, we tried.
Can you say,
Let's hand it to the next council members and, if that's where we are, that's the, or we can keep moving it through and have it die, but that's kind of.
That was the question that we were gonna ask. So if it's on the agenda July 6th for introduction, then the second reading is gonna be in August.
It's automatically the second meeting.
Right, and so even if there's a community concern, which is, even though you will attach an amendment, it's still gonna be challenging for Hall to get 27 votes. Now, I've seen Hall do, like, even with you, I mean, not with you, but I don't know how he'll do with you attaching to this bill.
You
But I've
co-sponsor.
seen Hall
Yeah.
do, just reality, I've seen Hall allow Toombs to help sponsor a bill. She attended all of the community meetings. The community had concerns. She told the community that she was gonna ask for a deferral. And that's what we assumed. So nobody showed up because she was going to ask for a deferral. Right when the bill was read, Hall stood up and did not want a deferral. So he overrode her, even though he let her ride this whole time. So I've seen him at the last hour take control. So I don't know if he'll do that with you, but if he does, and he stands up, and he decides to try to move for approval, the only other way we were able to, I wish this wasn't recorded, but the only other way, which I don't care, because sometimes you gotta call things out. The only other way we were able to stop that was to get with the committee, and they did a deferral. Otherwise.
The planning committee, right.
Yes, otherwise Hall will stand up and take control of that. And I've not seen him do it with you or with Council Lady Hurt, but I clearly saw him do it with Council Lady Toombs. So the community was assured that she could ask for a deferral. So I'm just saying, on July 6th, when he introduced it, when it's introduced,
Yeah.
then at the public hearing, we can assume what's the backup plan if he decides not.
So, and again, I apologize because I have not made we have a 94-page agenda.
95.
For this council, 95. Anyway, I'm working my way through it, but I
Right.
have not gotten to
I
that
got
point
it.
yet. My understanding is I'm the one who asked for what was before planning to be filed, so I think I'm lead sponsor.
Your lead sponsor.
Yeah.
Good.
That would be great.
So I'm the one who
So
stands.
he's not,
And seeing,
he's not on this bill.
no,
And he,
but
I mean, he could sign on,
he
but
could
He could
still
sign
sign
on,
on,
right.
It's not
but
controlled, right?
because of your position, council at large, that like took us to the next level,
we're just,
in a sense.
because, I mean, I talked to him at the last meeting and said, I've sort of, been
And he said,
been
"Okay,
attending
go ahead,
community
do your
meetings
thing."
and, well, I don't know, it was sort of like.
That's everyone's interaction with
That's
him.
right, you read it right, so what
So,
you say to
I
us?
said, I'm just trying to ensure there's a good conversation and that we understand what the issues are and if we can find solutions.
And it's
You know,
fair
that's
to
great.
us,
Let's
it's
see where we
fair
are.
to the community that they get their due process.
Yeah, to be.
And it's also fair to the developer, even though it seems like it was last minute rush, hurry. So we'll move past that, you don't have to comment. But
No,
I'm just saying,
I appreciate everyone's time, and I appreciate
Yeah,
everyone's
and
voice
here
on
we
this.
are.
And I'll say, obviously, here we are,
And here we are.
The conversation, unfortunately, I think, in different circumstances, would have happened a lot sooner. I
It would have been
we've
different.
attempted to try to have conversations and kind of had to go about
But
some
my last-
roundabout ways to have these conversations. I think that's kind of why we are where we
For
are.
them.
So,
My last question
hopefully,
is,
we
before you leave,
continue to have
please.
these meetings to allow everyone to kind of voice and kind of keep massaging the plan to get something that I don't think everyone's ever gonna be. I wish there was a kumbaya moment. I think, I hope
not.
there still is, but I don't think there ever be something where everyone,
Also for
unless I'm not cutting down a tree, I think there's some things that wouldn't approve, but unless I'm not doing, I mean, there's various pieces, but I think we can get somewhere, hopefully, that is a balance where I think it gets the church what they want, it gets me what I want, and it gets the community kind of the assurances they want. And then also, I think, as I said, I'm still a community steward within your district. Right now, I have employees that live there. We have good paying jobs, we have all those pieces, and I'm not going anywhere. We're not going anywhere, and this is something where we're not an ugly business, we're not any of those things. Like we're very active in the community. We want to be a good neighbor.
But my last question to you, Council Lady Allen, is that what is our next step? So are you saying you're going to add the amendment or substitute to this bill on July 6th when it's read?
Well, there are two ways that you go about it. Generally, again, we've got 95-page amendment agenda. Generally, on first reading, you let things slide through. The one advantage to that, it would be due tomorrow. I'm not sure that we've reached something that we've that solved all the issues that we've heard here today. So there are two plans. One would be for me to try to put something together as a substitute that includes where we are so far, pull it off of first reading, add the substitute, and then the one advantage of that would be then what is added is out there for everybody to look at and reflect. The other possibility would be to wait until second reading and just be sort of more orderly, except that that can't get filed until the Friday before the meeting, and it doesn't become a public document until the Monday, which is really short notice.
Yeah, very short.
So, you know, there's sort of two possibilities before us. We could at least have something that we know will not be the final product.
But just to get something out there.
Just to get something that we can all look at, and that's, you know, so it would be a substitute, it would change it to an SP, it would at least have the conditions that.
And the verbiage that we emailed to everyone,
Yeah,
are
they've been
those kind of
emailed
conditions
to
that
everybody.
we've been talking through with her.
And so maybe that's a step in closer to where people want to be, and then, you know, and then continue to work on tree preservation and stormwater issues
Things
and
that
things like
can
that.
be amended or added,
Right.
you know, later, but
Right.
just to get something out there now.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's rush, we're putting you on the spot, but is it possible for you to do that, just so the community can have something to look at, vet, make ideas, and be ready for the public hearing?
So
You
at
know,
least we're
and-
looking at.
Yeah, give them something to look at and make sure that I do wanna make sure we add a phrase. There was a lady at the meeting that asked about chemicals, even though I know you're not gonna be doing that.
No, we put it in there.
Oh,
So we
okay,
reduced
that's what I'm
the
saying.
storage
One of the
only.
conditions limits the use to just warehouse.
Just warehouse.
Yes, but it didn't, can you specifically say no chemicals? Cause she may not know, okay, warehouse, limited warehouse, but she may not know.
Some
you know.
warehouses store chemicals, so yeah.
That's fair.
we
No,
can-
we
Yeah.
can do that.
Well, I think there's actually under both IR zoning, and don't take this to the bank, but I'm fairly positive under the IR zoning and then with the use of warehouse, chemicals are prohibited.
Right, but
But
see, we would know that.
We can add that language,
We would
yeah.
know
You can't
that,
put in
but,
chemicals.
but the lady that asked the question wouldn't know that.
Sure.
So even if it's for just that one person, you see it written there. So as specific as the community asks, even if it's like, oh, well, we know we're not gonna do that, that's all I'm asking. So when you do that and you attach it, then we'll have this time, they'll have this time to look at it, vet it, think about it, talk about it. And if another meeting comes up, you still have that little window before the public hearing to hear more from the community. Cause even the gentleman that was here with a concern, even if it's everybody on his street, and if he can't get them here, at some point, we still have to move.
Do we think another meeting would be the right thing to do?
I can't say that.
Well, I was just
I wanna
curious,
follow
it's-
her lead
it kind of feels
because-
like attendance has been dwindling each meeting. I don't know, people, I got an email from someone during the meetings watching on YouTube, so obviously people are watching.
Right,
It
but-
was supported by them.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like, just, I'm kind of asking y'all if,
Well,
I don't want us to
I'm
dodge the game
thinking-
again.
I'm thinking if they see, if you do what you're gonna do to attach to the bill, that now gives them something in writing to see, this is where we are. If you disagree, you know, it's kinda like we gotta move on, is what it seems like. Not because, like she said, you got a piece of property that didn't work for you, but because we're tired. We can meet only so long, and keep meeting to meet.
Right.
It's like, let's move. So if you do what you're going to do and give the community time to read it, I think we moved another step.
That's well
That's what I
said.
think.
And then
That's
it
my
seems
thoughts.
like we still have some issues to deal with.
We still have
Impacts
some-
of traffic on Cato Road is a big thing, and tree retention is a big thing, and stormwater.
Yes,
I mean,
and
are there
whatever
other things we
statement they
can
need,
add to address
to
those?
put in there, cause if you take down a tree, put back a tree, we need to give those that are concerned time. So we got a working document, if you create what you're gonna do to
do that.
The substitute, we have a working document, and then we can make whatever changes need to
Okay.
be made. We'll have a few weeks from the time it's introduced to the public hearing, and then it's either on them to have a meeting, or it's on the community leader to have a meeting. Either way, we need to meet to say, okay, we're good, or we're not good.
Or not
And we did our level best to try to work it out. so everybody can put a pin in it and move on.
I'm happy to reserve a spot again for meeting, again, want to be.
Well, this is not gonna be available
Sure.
because this is an early voting site. So after this week, this room will not be available.
You go back to
Until-
Y again.
It doesn't matter. I would just not suggest going to Hartman Park or anywhere out of the way for this community to vet this project, because this is their impact.
Sure.
Not that other people can have a say on it, but if you put it too far out of the way, then you're missing the people that are important. That's my 2 cents on that. So,
When you're developing though, Metro usually requires a certain amount of vegetation and trees and stuff to be added to that development, you know?
Well, we have to file the tree count.
Yeah.
And then there's a
Yeah.
requirement of like where we have anything
Mhm.
So whether that's new planning or keeping what we got.
and that's part of what I was saying too. We know what stormwater is gonna require. But I think it would be, just my 2 cents, I think it would be to your benefit to go above and beyond what they're requiring, because you're trying to be a good neighbor. And you don't wanna look like you're just doing the bare minimum. Anybody
I
can
can
do
safely
the.
say I don't want to cause floods.
Right, and that's why I said,
With
you,
100% certainty, guarantee you that.
Yeah, you were not here during that
I
time,
would go
but-
beyond prevents that, then I
yeah,
want to
but
do that.
consider that even if it's one more tree, if Metro said do 30 and you do one more tree, think of the ease that you're giving that neighbor, you know, even if it's not fixing it, but that's my point. So, we got a working document, we're gonna have a working document, and if you make some concerns, since you live in the neighborhood as well, as to what you'd like to see added from your experience, I think we can have a good working document. We did our level best.
I'm just worried about traffic flow just because of that neighborhood being that bridge on Riley's only in and out. That's really like my main concern. And I mean, like I said before, I know you guys run a business. Church wants to do their thing too and do their mission. And that's totally fine. It's just how can we come to a compromise together for everyone, you know, to be satisfied with that, you know?
And that also comes back to us looking at this 95-page traffic study, if you haven't seen that.
Well, I'll give you the
So-
highlights. There's recommendations on like the second page and the very last page. That's what you look at.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing too.
Yeah, the executive summary on the front end.
Right. Oh, okay. But I'm saying, so the documents are out there, would be out there for the community to review, and make input. They've already did a traffic study dated May 2023. So it's almost like the community now has to take some responsibility to do some research and some homework, rather than just following a flow saying no, no, no. You see what I'm saying?
No,
So,
I mean, I agree.
I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So now, you know, you call neighbors, you do what you need to do, they do what they need to do. And so at some point, we gotta like, you know what?
Well, I mean, this is the reason I attended, because I knew several of my neighbors. I was looking, I'm like, oh, they're not coming, you know, and I was like, well, I need to attend at least so that way we can make
And
sure
they may not
everybody's going on.
come.
So you're hearing it from the person there and not just hearsay.
Yeah.
Because usually when it's hearsay, it gets misconstrued.
Exactly.
You know, it's communications major, some of this.
And it
gets
may not come
misconstrued.
next time,
Yeah.
but at least we know we've reached out personally. If you know, you call people, and I know I call people.
Yeah.
That's about all we can do.
I mean, yeah, that's all you can do, but I mean, like, it's just, you know, being there and having the accurate information to give, like, this is what this meeting was over and everything like that, instead of just kind of like going through a chain and hearing from somebody else, or I heard this person said this, and before you know it, the chain goes down, and then you have something that's completely opposite of what your plan was. So, yeah.
But I think, I just want to say good job for giving us some information to work with and look at, and this is not a campaign ploy. I would be involved whether I'm running or not, because you just generally help your neighbors. And so, you know, I'm not yay or nay, I just want to make sure, because at the end of that creek is my neighborhood. So-
Well, at the end, I mean, at the end, if we have a warehouse, I'm next to everyone, trust me.
Yeah.
Last thing I need is.
Y'all
everyone-
makes one of them,
I'm
I get
not trying to
rapport
come
with
somewhere where everyone
everybody.
hates me, I promise.
Who knows, Best Brand may even throw a little party for us.
Exactly.
Yeah, it could be any neighborhood party.
We have
But thank
cookouts
you.
on
I
the
want to
regular.
make actually want to say thank you. I want to say
That's
thank you
accurate.
to you, Council Lady Allen, for stepping in and hearing us and helping us. I really appreciate that. Any other council member could have done it, but you took the bull by the horns. and
Just want to make sure it continues to be community-led process.
We're coming together, and thank you so much. We needed a mediator, and you did your job being council at large, so thank you.
Can you share that hydrological information, the 100 meg document, like put it on Google Docs and just share the link?
Yes.
That would be great.
Sure.
All righty.
I would
And the
probably
traffic
send
study.
it to people with Gmail have access, and then y'all can disseminate it. I don't think it'll go to everybody, but I'll just respond into that email. Yes, I'll answer it yes.
Awesome.
Oh,
Thanks,
yeah,
Chip.
send it to my Gmail. I think on that one I put my welcome. Thank you. I'm good.
We've got family to pick up. the
Shall we call it?
All in. No, to go, please.
All the time, all the time.
I'm not, I hope I'm not inclined, this is the